Hey guys, today I'm going to be taking you on a tour of a couple of sketchbooks. Now the reason I'm doing two of these at the same time is because they're sort of twins of one another. I did this back in 2017 and I brought these two sketchbooks on my trip to Japan. And they're sort of a travel sketchbook, but also because I went in October. If you're an artist, you know what that means. I did Inktober in both of these sketchbooks. So I ran out of space on this one and then the series just sort of continued over onto the red one here. So they're sort of connected to each other in that way. Anyways, we'll look at this one first because it came first. So I just want to kind of breeze past the first few pages because I kind of want to get to the Inktober part because I think that's just more interesting. But anyways, these are some developments for personal projects. You can see like facial expression studies or explorations, I guess. And you know, if you've seen my sketchbooks, you'll know that I like drawing astronauts, I like drawing sci-fi armor things, so these are just things that I default back to over and over again when I don't know what else to draw. So this is something I do. Same with vehicles, I guess. And I was kind of learning how to draw properly in perspective back then. Like, I mean, you can see that a lot of this stuff is like kind of wonky, especially hard surface stuff, but it is what it is. It's plain. I had this idea for Space Cowboys for an IP that I was working on. It's like, you know how like the Wild West is sort of like the final frontier or something like that. Or not the final frontier, but like the Wild West is like the frontier at the time. So I was looking at like space or like the moon as like the next frontier, right? So like if you were to terraform the moon in the future, then that would be like the new Wild West where there were like no laws, and it kind of looks like the Wild West, right? Because it's just desert and sand and nothing. Some plane drawings. This is a real plane, I think. It's like a sensor thing for weather. And then this looks a little too much like the Serenity. More character drawings. Like I did a lot of character stuff back in the day. My sketchbooks had a lot of character drawings, and it's kind of weird to me because I'm not really a character concept artist, at least not for work. So it's kind of funny that I like drawing characters in my sketchbooks as opposed to environments and props and stuff like that, which is like kind of the things that I do for work most of the time. So I guess it kind of makes sense as to why I would do this in my free time, because it's just different from work, I guess. So back in 2017, when I was doing this thing, I was working on a film as an environment concept artist. So a lot of this is just me just drawing whatever I want, just because I wanted to not do like the stuff that I was doing for work and just like drawing whatever. So it is just a bunch of random doodles, very much so. And you know, like if you're on a plane, you gotta draw like a POV shot, right? So this is just like really random doodles of whatever I wanted at the time, because I wanted to, like drawing again for fun and not make it feel like work. So I was drawing like a max and like things that I usually like to draw because it just didn't feel like work, as opposed to environments and props and stuff like that. So here is the start of the Inktober portion of this sketchbook. So I kind of prepped this idea for Japan because I was thinking about it a lot. Like I was really excited for the trip and Inktober was coming around. So I thought, why not create a story or a world around this and use all 30 days of Inktober to draw out this world and flesh out this world, right? And make it like a series with a story as opposed to just one random ink drawing a day that aren't, connected to each other. And oh, by the way, if you don't know what Inktober is, it's like a challenge where during the month of October, you draw one ink drawing a day based on a prompt if you want to, or just do your own thing, which is what I'm doing here. So the idea for this is, but these are Macs, by the way, in case you didn't notice. The idea is that in this universe, like fishes are like the apex predator, so they're kaiju, right? So they're like really huge giant monsters, but people still like to eat fish. So being a fisherman is like a super dangerous job, and it's like a highly specialized industry where being a fisherman is like this like super crazy dangerous job that you do. So let's just go back to this one first. But these are like just like mechs for like this is not actually a mech. It's like a underwater diving suit, and then this one is just like a defense thing in case like the ship is attacked by a giant fish. Then you have a mech to like defend yourself against these big fishes. And then it's like diving suits for like, or maybe this is like a cargo lifter for, you know, when you're working on the ship and you're lifting things up. And then this one is like a diving suit with a repair robot. So this is like a ship maintenance kind of suit where you would dive down and not necessarily hunt for fish, but it's just like a repair suit, so it's relatively light and less armored. So here is one of those giant fish. So this is like a baby fish, I would think, because you know, it's not that big, but you would fish these like, or catch these like really huge fish, and then, you know, ship them across as like a really like valuable commodity because it's dangerous and it's expensive. And then this is like a diver hunting for fish eggs. So, you know, fish eggs are normally this big, but you know, in the world they're huge because fish are bigger. So that was just the idea, because, you know, I was going to Japan and I wanted to eat a lot of seafood while I was in Japan, and I was kind of hyped about it. So I thought, you know, why not dedicate an entire month's worth of drawing to fish, because I like sashimi. And so here's like, you know, different aspects of the world. So this one is like a harpoon gun that you would mount on the side of a ship, kind of like, you know, Moby Dick or something like that when you're whaling, but, you know, sci-fi. And then this is like the dangers of being a diver. So, you know, fish are like surface feeders, some of them, right? So he's a diver in the water, and then he's gonna get eaten by this big fish. And I sort of did these in brush pen because, you know, I was going to Japan. I was like, oh, maybe I want to try this style out of like just doing it all in, or mostly all of it in brush pen, just because like it just seemed like the suitable thing to do. So here is a dock worker, or like one of those people on the ships, whose job is to kill the fish. So it's like a face mask to prevent him from blood splatter, and, you know, overalls to just keep him clean. And it's a large caliber pistol here to, you know, finish the job. If you catch a fish and he's not like entirely dead yet, then that's like what he would use to put it out of its misery. So this is like sort of a more everyday outfit, I guess. And then another one, so I wanted to draw like a fishing ship, so a fishing boat, and then just to show the scale of how big the fish is. So this is kind of like an oarfish, and, you know, you can see how big it is compared to a fishing boat. And you got little people here for scale. And this is something a bit more like storytelling. So these are like really monster massive fish. Like, you know, you won't be able to kill these, because like fish are basically, they're like the apex predators, so they have no natural predators other than bigger fish, you know, because there's always a bigger fish.
There's always a bigger.
So here is 3 characters, like, you know, fishermen or whatever, encountering one of the biggest ones, and, you know, you can only see his eye, and it's really dramatic because it's like silhouetted against everything with like the circle composition. Here's another mech where I think it's like a lifting mech, because, oh, there's a gun here, so it's like a defense mech, I guess, because, like, you know, if it's got a gun. And I've noticed one thing about the Pentel color brush pens, and a lot of people ask me what sort of brush pens I use in some of my other videos, and it's these, they're called Pentel color brush, if I'm not wrong. I don't see any names here, but over time they sort of turn orange. I'm not sure if you can tell, but like it's sort of orangey here, and maybe you can see it better in later drawings because it's pretty obvious. But I kind of like it just because like it degrades over time. I'm not sure whether it's due to exposure to UV light or just time, I guess, that these chemicals just degrade and turn orange. But I think it's kind of cool. And, you know, brush pen mechs are really fun to draw because you don't really have to figure out every single tiny detail. You can just have gesture it and like make it seem like there's a lot of details, but they're all just like scribbles and like large shadow shapes just to give you that illusion of density and tiny surface details. And in fact, there really isn't, and I'm just cheating my way through a lot of it, so that's why it's fun. So here's the guy who owns the fishing company. He's like the big boss. It's like Giovanni in Pokemon or something like that. So he's obviously very rich, and his house has like a mount of like one of the big fish, you know, because like rich people like to hunt and mount stuff on the walls, right? That's something they do. Here are some face shield explorations for dock workers. So, you know, again, the blood splatters everywhere, and you know, fishing is a messy job, so I was just designing different types of face shields for the dock workers. Here is a structure for one of the ships. Yeah, it's just like a structure that hangs off the ship maybe, or some sort of dock structure like a catwalk, or you know, there's a crane here to lift things, I guess. Yeah, and then you can see here like that brown starts to come through because the ink is degrading. Oh, this one is really cool actually. I really like this one because I guess it's a very human response to worship these things. To me, it's like it seems very natural that if you have something that big, that you know, some people would idolize or pray to these things. So here's like a priest from like a cult or a religion that worships these fish as gods, because you know, they're like much bigger, much more powerful than us. And he is on this like hand-built DIY raft that, you know, he's just going to go sit on this and he's going to drift out to sea to, you know, sacrifice himself to the fish. So here is another turret for defense purposes, like so they'll mount this on ships. It's sort of like a battleship in case, you know, in case of any attacks and stuff like that. Against larger fish, you would use like a big one instead of a mech. Mechs are more mobile, but you know, these are mounted on ships. So that's just defense. I just like drawing guns. It's just like an excuse for me to draw mini guns, to be honest. Here's a drawing of a quadruped mech, and this is really funny because I drew this while I was eating sushi, so you can sort of see the inspiration. Right, this is like the rice, and this is like a piece of fish. I even call it like a nigiri bot or something like that, right? Because that's just like what it looks like, and it's like a forklift, I guess. But like, you know, I wanted to do something more like within that language of fish and seafood related stuff. So I drew a quadruped mech that looks like a piece of sushi. So here is one of the scavengers. So, you know, some parts the company sort of discards because, you know, nobody wants to eat them, like the fish eye. So like, you know, scavengers will, but there's, you know, there's still fetch a price in the market or something like that, right? So like scavengers would just like scavenge these like discarded parts of fish and harvest things that, you know, might fetch a small amount of money. And here's another one of like a fisherman. So, you know, he's got a harpoon arm because, you know, he's a badass, and he's got fish scale for armor because they're really, really strong. And here's one of the transports for dock workers. Like, you know, if you're moving around a dock, you kind of want something small and lightweight relatively to get around. So that's that. So just halfway through the thing and I ran out of space, so I brought a second sketchbook with me because, you know, I counted the number of pages and clearly there wasn't enough. So I brought this with me and started this in Japan. And it's really funny because like at the end of the day, every day after traveling, I would just come back to my Airbnb and have to, you know, draw an Inktober drawing a day, which is kind of nice. It's kind of tiring, but it's kind of nice because you get to just like chill out and reset and just like draw, because I think it's really fun that you get to keep it up. So other than fish, you know, there are other sea dwelling creatures, of course. So here is an octopus interacting or like messing with the probe, like a weather probe that they put out to sea. And you can sort of see the scale here because here's the same transport that I put here, but it's just like a lot smaller here, so it's the same thing. So that sort of gives you an idea of scale. And when I think about these things, I always think about scale and how to show them, and it just like helps me flesh out the world a little bit more. So this project was really fun because I got to think about many different things that I just think are fun to just explore, and most of the time they just exist in my own head. Once in a while, it's nice to put these ideas down on paper and just sort of bring people through this world that I created. So here's a high priest from that religion that worships fish that I was talking about. So I used a lot of like fish scale motifs. So here, this is like literal fish scales, and then you can see that sort of motif. and fish hooks and stuff like that mixed into the design of her costume, or his or her costume. And then here are some dock workers with mech next to them, because, you know, why not? Okay, so here is where it sort of gets non-linear, because this isn't part of the Inktober. I did this after. The reason is that you know, in Japan you have these like stamps, right, where you can go get your book or whatever stamp book stamped in various you know, attractions like tourist places. So I had these stamped. So while I was going around, I got these done, and so I skipped a lot of these pages because I just didn't want to draw over them. So here is the next one. So this is like a heavy diving suit. It's like a heavier for deep water stuff. And then these are jellyfish, and here's like a submersible to give you an idea of like how large these things are. I really enjoyed these few because they're like a scene as opposed to this one is probably my favorite because it's like a scene as opposed to just a single drawing. Like it's just like an illustration for the most part. And so these are like prawns or shrimp, depending on where you're from. And you can see the scale, it's like as large as like a submersible, and they're just exploring. And you know, shrimp are mostly harmless, so it's pretty cool that they can just like dive and swim through these like kelp forests with like shrimp, just hang out. And then here is a more gruesome drawing of killing of fish. So like I said, right, fishing and like butchering of fish and dissecting them, it's a messy job. That's why they need those face shields. And you know, this is like what I pictured in my head as like, you know, what they would be doing, just like slaving away at the docks, just like slicing fish and being nasty and disgusting. And some weapon designs. So here's like some of the harpoon guns that they might use to kill fish, or just like harpoon onto them to attach. And then there's like that high caliber pistol I was talking about. So it's like basically like a shotgun slug, and then you just like, you know, finish it off, put them out of their misery really quickly. And then I thought I'd sort of have fun with one of these gun designs. So this is what it would look like if, you know, this universe was like an FPS game. So you would be like a ship worker and you would be hunting, sort of like what is that game with like really big creatures, that like FPS game that came out on PlayStation a long time ago. I don't remember what it's called, but whoa, it's over here. But yeah. And then I think that's the end of the Inktober stuff. So that's the final drawing, I think. So we're just gonna jump back here because we're doing it non-linear, more mechs, and I was really getting into doing brush pen work during this stage, because I did like 30 days of brush pen, and I was like getting really good at like controlling lines. You can see like there's a lot of really fine lines and like really stable line work here, alongside like some really nice, you know, dry brush sort of thing. So I got really good at getting the brush pen to sort of be dry as well, because sometimes it's really hard to control the ink flow coming out of a brush pen, especially if it's not like a dip brush. So I found out a method or a way in which I could hold the brush, in which to get like these like really dry sort of more brush strokey lines. You know, we went to the aquarium, so we got all these like cute stamps. And then I sort of got the idea of like, you know, why don't I just draw over these stamps, because it seemed like a waste to just like have 10 pages of your sketchbook just like stamps and not do anything. They're just blank pages, right? Why not just do it on another book instead? So I just sort of drew over them because it just felt like the right thing to do. So here is like a grasshopper. I was experimenting with using the brush pen for larger pieces. So this is like a really big piece that I don't usually draw this big. It's like basically A4, and I was just trying it out because it's just not my usual thing. And it's nice because when you're doing big strokes with a brush pen, you can sort of get these like very Japanese ink, Chinese ink painting sort of look with the strokes, which you can't really get it with smaller strokes because, you know, the brush just isn't shaped that way. Yeah, so I just drew, you know, it's just like mech drawings and the usual, and just like experimenting, trying out speed lines. I got to see a whale shark in real life, so that was really cool. They're a lot bigger than I expected them to be. So going on with the fish theme, this was done on stream for a streamer. Her name is Arya Saki. She's really cool, and you know, there's like an emote going around with like fish. So I decided to do this like wacky drawing with, you know, all these weird fish, like with like Japanese stereotypes. I guess some of this is like the Yankee, and then, you know, this is that headband with the loincloth or whatever, and you know, just some random fish at the back. It was just really funny, and I like the way it layers with the ink here. I think it's really cool. For some reason, it really works well with this page in particular. I think it's because the blue ink is really nice. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I like doing stuff like that. And then just like getting into the brush pen, I'm sort of trying to move away from conventional humanoid mechs, because like most of the mechs I draw are sort of just like in terms of their proportions, they're just humans basically, with a human skeleton, and just like, it's just that their bones and flesh, they're made out of metal. So I'm just trying to do like different structures here, and just play with like really weird skeletal shapes, just to get some more interesting designs. Oh, and I hit 1,000 followers on Twitch, so that was pretty cool. Yeah. This is so cute. I don't even remember looking at this, but this is hilarious. I love this so much. Fan art, I guess. Like, this is Ari, and I don't think this is fan art of anything, but I was playing a lot of Rumble at the time. I had top Rumble in League of Legends, so I thought it'd be really cool to just draw a Rumble man. It's a mech, you know, so why not just do that? It seemed like a really good fit. Oh, that's you know what this is. You don't need me to tell you. Okay, so this is Inktober stuff. And then here is some thumbnails that I do, just for various. I don't think this is like a specifically for anything, just like various thumbnails that I like to explore compositionally. I think some of these are pretty nice, you know. I might revisit this one actually. This is pretty cool, and this one as well. And just a mech. So I did, you know, usually I like to do this stuff. So I did a small little drawing here, and then make a big one after. You know, that's how we do things here. Okay, so this is really cool. This is an admission ticket to the a palace in Kyoto, and they handwrite these, if I'm not wrong. They look handwritten, by the way. So if you, every time you go to like a shrine or something like that, they just write your ticket down with a brush, and that's just it. They don't print stuff. There's no like ticket stubs. Like, they just write it down on a piece of paper, and it looks freaking beautiful. This is me transitioning back into ballpoint pen. So you can see every time I transition from one drawing tool to another, it sort of kind of looks janky, because it's been so long since I've touched like a ballpoint pen that I kind of forgot how to use it. So it's like half and half, I guess, because there's a lot of brush pen stuff in here. But yeah, I'm just like transitioning back again for whatever reason. This was this during Breath of the Wild? I think this was earlier, but it's Zelda, you know. It's Link. I know it's Link. I'm just kidding. Max. Oh, so this was the gold ink that I bought in Japan, and they're available everywhere now, but I found it in Japan, and that was really nice. It's like a brush pen. It's just a gold ink brush pen. So I got it, and I was like trying out some stuff, and you know, there are later drawings where I make better use of it, I suppose. Some demons. So this is for Hungry Ghost Festival, like my personal IP. So just like exploring some demon drawings, and these are messengers in that world as well. I'll get more into this universe like maybe later, but essentially these are characters that live in that IP, and I am using gold ink here. So it's just like trying it out and being a bit more minimal with it, just to see what it's like. And people seem to really like this gold ink stuff, because these two are like my most liked pieces on Instagram for whatever reason. Like, it was just like super loose and like quickly drawn, but for some reason the gold just like gets people going. So if you want to get like social media likes, just get a gold ink pen and just like put like a little bit here, put a little bit here, and it's like instant followers. A spaceship. So I explored around this idea of like the visual language of the sphere. So I wanted to design a spaceship around a sphere for, you know, design. It's just an exercise that I like doing. It's just like designing things around a specific shape or design language, and in this case it's a sphere. And so I'm just trying different ways like how to possibly, you know, work my way around this sphere. And like if I had a sphere and I were to, you know, build a spaceship or design a spaceship around it, you know, there are many different ways to do it. And this is sort of like a design practice that, you know, I'm really a huge fan of doing. I think it's really fun. This is a fun way to fill up your sketchbook, if anything else. More demons from Hungry Ghost Festival, and you can see that the mix between brush pen and ballpoint pen is a lot more smoother, and it transitions a lot nicer compared to the earlier ones where I was just like, I don't really know where to put the brush pen, and I don't really know how to, you know, properly give it weight. Whereas this one, it's a lot more controlled, and I think it just comes with time and mileage, because like if you stop doing it for a while, you're gonna forget, and then it takes time just to get back into the groove of things. Like, it's so easy to get rusty, especially with a brush pen, that once you stop using it, it takes you a while just to get that fine motor skill back, like just to understand and remember, oh, this is what it feels like. So like I would say this Mac piece, for example, it's just a lot better in terms of like how I apply the brush pen compared to the earlier ones where I was just like unsure as to how or where to put my brush pen strokes, right? Like where do I thicken the lines or where to darken some shapes. Whereas here, I think it's a lot better thought out. Like this one, for example, right? I think it's just a huge step up from that. I think it just comes with practice and drawing and learning the tool really well. Character doodles, you know. Oh, and then this is me just like going back into full brush pen again and playing with the gold ink. I actually really like the look of gold ink, and I'm sort of bringing it back. And it's the same brush pen, by the way. I have not yet run out because, you know, I use it so sparingly, but I really enjoy this look. So if you look at my newer drawings, there's a lot of gold in it basically. Some more mech drawings, like these are more like Gundam inspired, very humanoid, boxy look. That, you know, Gundam is great. Animal studies with the brush pen, so it's just a different use case of the brush pen where instead of doing mechs, I'm drawing a lot more fluid shapes, you know, organic stuff with animals. So just getting that line and that stroke really clean, really fluid, and indicate the contours of the muscle really well. That's just something that I still to this day am not very good at because I just don't draw too many animals. And here is a really cute duck and some cows to end the sketchbook. So yeah, that's the end of the sketchbook, or sketchbooks, I guess. If you like more of this kind of like Inktober, you know, narrative stuff, let me know in the comments down below. I've got a couple more series like this. So if you want to see more of that, let me know. If you like the video, like it, comment, subscribe, you know what to do. Okay, have a nice day, guys. Bye.